Okay, I am back with you all on the sweetener discussion. And on this video, I want to show you three types of sugar that I highly recommend you don't eat. And I'm going to give you a lot of choices and understanding around these three types of sugars because some of you might be eating them. And I'll explain where you might want to eat them and where you don't. But on this video, I want to debunk these three types of sugars. And for those of you that are new to my channel, welcome. And I'm doing a series on sweeteners. So there are multiple videos coming your way on different types of sugar. So I'm sure my team will put references to the other videos here in the notes because this is a really important one. So many of you are following me and watching my channel in order to learn how to do this metabolic switch and switch over into the fasted state. And the sugars you're eating in the fed state are actually making your fasting harder. So let's dive into these three sweeteners. Here are some of the questions, by the way, that I get a lot. And I have a team of people that answer these questions. So thank you to all of you that leave questions on my videos. We are hearing you, we are gathering them, and then they become fuel for other videos. But here are some of the questions that I get a lot. Is agave good for you? We're going to talk about that. Is coconut sugar better than regular sugar? We'll work on that one. And what about maple syrup? So we're going to break these three down in this video so that you understand if they're right for you or not. I want to stop on that thought for a moment. Remember that the new place we're going with nutrition right now is personalized nutrition, meaning that there are a lot of great ideas about nutrition out there. But the most important thing is that you take those ideas and you make them applicable to you. So when I look at these three sweeteners, let's talk about where they may work for you and where they won't. And those of you that are really struggling to lose weight, to thrive in your fasted state, to bring your hemoglobin A1C down, or get your fasting glucose or your fasting insulin down, this is the kind of video that might make the difference for you because these three sugars may not be working for you. So here's the first one that is actually, I really dislike this sugar or this sweetener, and it's agave. So actually comes from a cactus. And I always like to look at like where these actual sugars come from. It's helpful to understand potentially what their glycemic impact is. Now, remember, we've been talking about the glycemic index. The glycemic index is how, when you eat a food, how much will it spike your glucose? It is a range, and it doesn't take into consideration that your microbes control your blood sugar spikes. So if you have been on a lot of antibiotics, you've been on birth control for years, you've been eating horribly, Western standard diet, there's a very good chance that any food, is even the lowest in the sweeteners is going to cause you to have this really intense blood sugar spike. But when it comes to something like agave, what we can look at is we can say, okay, sugar, on one hand, organic sugar, or we'll call it organic. Organic sugar has a glycemic index of somewhere around between 65 and 100. Let's just give it we'll be forgiving and give it a 65. Agave has a glycemic index of 20. Okay, well, why would that show up? Why am I bringing it to your attention on a video where I'm telling you these three sweeteners you may not want to eat? Well, it's because it is what type of sugar it is. The reason agave doesn't spike your blood sugar is because it is about 60% fructose and 100% sucrose. And you have to understand that sucrose goes straight into your blood sugar or straight into your sugar system, whereas fructose gets shuttled off to your liver where it is stored as fat later. So small amounts of fructose are okay if you're doing high amounts of fructose, meaning high amounts of agave. Fruit has fructose in it too. If you're doing high amounts, then you might start to see more stored sugar in your liver. And this will show up in the fasted state, because when you get over here and you start trying to fast and your body has to go find all its stored sugar, one of the things that stops it from being the liver from being an efficient uh, sugar burner is too much sugar in there. It bogs it down. So we want to make sure that we're not shuttling too much fructose into the liver. Now, when you eat table sugar and it's 100% sucrose, that starts to challenge the pancreas. And the pancreas, when you're eating a lot of sucrose, is all of a sudden having to work overtime making more insulin. And the more insulin you have surging through your system, the more insulin resistant you might get. So fructose is not bad as long as it is in small amounts. So agave fits into that. It is 60% fructose. So if you're having pulses of it here and there, it will be okay and is better than the table sugar that puts the load on the pancreas and the load on your cells. So think fructose, think of it in small amounts. Now, a 2022 study in Nutrients found that eating a lot of fructose contributes to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I've done a lot on that disease. It is one of the most common chronic diseases in the United States. So agave has even more fructose in it than high fructose corn syrup. So, there's actually, and I'll put these studies in there, there's actually a 2014 review in European Endocrinology that noted that high fructose corn syrup is only 42% fructose and agave is 60% fructose. So again, let me recap here for a moment. Sucrose is found in table sugar. It will be stressful on the pancreas and on your cell's ability to take insulin in. So it's not good. It should be in lower amounts. It just stresses your body in a different way. Fructose is also damaging to the body and damaging mostly to the liver. And agave is 60% fructose. Now, with fructose, we can get away with it in small amounts. It won't be taxing to the liver. Whereas personally, I think sucrose is taxing to the cells and to the pancreas, even in small amounts. But when I look at a statistic like agave is 60% fructose and high fructose corn syrup is 40% fructose, it makes me go, it's not a worthy sweetener. It's too high in fructose. And some of you may be eating it more often, like your favorite food product might have in it. But when you see agave, I want you to think damaging to the liver, and I should only have it in a small amount. Okay, there's a lot of nuance in that one. Okay, my baby's coming to you. Eat like a girl. You want to know the foods that will support hormones? Guess what? I have them for you already. It's a free giveaway. Just click the link above and I'll send you a list of all the foods that support amazing hormonal health. Okay, the second sweetener I'm going to encourage you to avoid, but you've probably heard me talk about it because I use it in small amounts, which is coconut sugar and palm sugar. So technically, why I like coconut sugar as a substitute, and when my kids are grown now, I'm an empty nester, and why I used coconut sugar in my house all the time when my kids were there is because it has an glycemic index of 40. So remember, table sugar is 60 to 100, somewhere in that range. So a little lower on the glycemic index. But the other thing that coconut sugar has in it is a small amount of inulin. And inulin is a fiber that feeds your bacteria in your gut. And so it will slow down the absorption of that sugar and decrease the glycemic impact. So I keep talking about these microbes. Remember, they control blood sugar. So it's really interesting that even though coconut sugar is at a 40, if because of its impact on the microbiome through this small amount of inulin, it may actually have a glycemic impact that's a lot more like 20, which makes it like on surface level, that sounds amazing. But let me tell you the dark side of coconut and palm sugars is that they are still packed with carbohydrates. So we're back looking at this sucrose fructose situation. So there was a review published in the British Dental Journal that notes that coconut and palm sugars are about 80% sucrose. So instead of 100%, so remember table sugar is 100% sucrose. Coconut sugar, even though it's got inulin, even though it's lower on the glycemic index, it's 80% sucrose, which means when it goes into your system, it is really spiking your blood sugar, causing your pancreas to have to make more insulin, leading you down a path more towards insulin resistance. So the authors of the study, the British Dental Journal study I'm quoting, say that coconut sugar can contribute to obesity, inflammation, diabetes, and heart disease in the same way that white sugar does because it is sucrose. It is 80% sucrose. They're also, again, this was a dental. I just want to point out that this article that I'm quoting you, or this review, was from the British Dental Journal. And so the review also noted that coconut and palm sugar are highly cariogenic, meaning they can cause cavities. So maybe brush your teeth afterwards, but don't eat too much. Again, because it can move you more towards insulin resistance. It's harder on the pancreas and it can cause cavities. So, but if you're not worried about that and you have it in small amounts, personally, I think coconut sugar is one of the tastiest, but just something to kind of dive in and think about a little bit more. Again, this video, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm giving you resources to think this through so you can make the best choice for yourself. Okay, the third sugar that we're going to unpack sweetener is maple syrup. Now, I want to point out that maple syrup comes in grade A and grade B. Grade A is the highly refined maple syrup. So that is the more processed type of maple syrup and is what I'm going to be talking about here. One of your workarounds is to actually buy grade B because grade B has more minerals in it. It has more nutrients in it, and it hasn't been as refined. It's more come straight out of the tree. Whereas grade A has been refined, and anytime we refine something, we increase its impact on our blood glucose. So maple syrup is popular, and it's true that in small amounts, it's fine in small amounts. In fact, in Eat Like a Girl, you're gonna find some recipes in there with maple syrup. Try to get grade B. But maple syrup is a lot like coconut sugar, where while it's unrefined and has these trace minerals, which I love because anything you eat with a lot of minerals helps you in the fasted state. It also, from a pancreas standpoint and from an insulin resistance standpoint, it's not much better than table sugar. So a 1996 review in Food Research International found that maple syrup has a sucrose content between 50 to 75%. So remember, table sugar has a sucrose content of 100%. What did we say? That coconut sugar had a sucrose content of 80%. Maple syrup has a sucrose content between 50 to 75%. It also has a glycemic index of 55. So when we break that down, it's not much better than table sugar. So table sugar, let's just put them head to head. Table sugar has a glycemic index of 65. Maple syrup has a glycemic index of 55. Table sugar has a sucrose percentage of 100%. Maple sugar has a sucrose of 50 to 75%. But what it does mean, so it's a little bit better than table sugar, but what it does mean if you like maple syrup is think about what you pair it with. If you're using it in a recipe, let's put fiber with it, let's put protein, and let's put fat so that the glycemic index response, this glucose spike, is much less. That's how, even in all of these, in all three of these, agave, coconut sugar, and maple syrup, if you pair it with a fat, if you pair it with a fat and protein, if you pair it with fat, protein, and some fiber, you're not going to get these negative effects as much, as deeply. But if you don't pair them with those three things, these sweeteners can be very harmful. And those of you that are really trying to lose weight or bring down your hemoglobin A1C, or you're trying to get your metabolic health on track, this kind of conversation really matters, which is why I'm having it with you. This is like nutrition, 201. So, what should you use instead? Go watch the video that I have done on 3 sweeteners that I love. I'm not going to give it away here. You can go watch it because, again, there's a lot of nuance. So there are some that I recommend. At the end of the day, for me personally, I don't eat a lot of sweeteners. I'm really careful about that because I'm a recovering sugaraholic. And I find that if I go into something that's too sweet, then I start craving sweet. So I make sure that I keep all of these sweeteners at a lower rate, a lower place. But I also always think about what I pair my sweetener with. I pair it with a fat, fiber, or protein so that increase in glucose doesn't happen. Okay, this part of the video, I'm going to dive into questions because a lot of you have been asking questions. I appreciate all your questions on all my videos. These questions, a lot of them come from my Reset Academy. So if you don't know that I have a membership group where we are doing different fasts together, we're having conversations like this around food. We work out on Saturday mornings together. It's truly a membership of incredible people that are doing health together. Please come join us over there if that moves you. But these questions today are actually coming from my Reset Academy, where many of your questions can be answered. Okay, so one of the questions is, how do you feel about resistant wheat starch? Apparently, the carbs are digestible in the large intestine rather than the small. Does it make it better? Resistant starches, they're good. They are not bad. I'm not sure what I think of it coming from wheat. Personally, I like a resistant starch that you get from like potatoes or sweet potatoes. Those are more of my favorite. I try to get resistant starches into my own personal diet because resistant starch feeds your microbiome. When we look at this fasting lifestyle that you're building with this metabolic switch where there's a eating window and a fasting window, I want you to dip into your fasts and I want it to be easy. Those of you that have been doing a fasting lifestyle for a while, it gets easier with time. But your fast will never become easy if you don't master some concepts in your eating window. And one of those concepts, I put it in Eat Like a Girl, is feed your microbes, not your taste buds. If you are always thinking about your microbes, what foods can I eat to support my microbes, you will find that you will get metabolically healthier quicker. Fasting will become easier. So when I look at resistant starches, I personally think of things like the resistant starch in a purple sweet potato. I don't know why that popped in my head. There was a study years ago that I found fascinating that purple sweet potatoes actually feed the microbes in your large intestine. I want you to think about these microbes as they're just sitting there waiting to do something amazing for you. They're hanging out in your small intestine. I mean, we got microbes everywhere, but the microbes in the stomach, the small intestine, and in the large intestine, you even have microbes in your mouth that are breaking food down and pre-digesting food. So if we look at the whole digestive system, the mouth, the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, those are populated with these microbes that are working for your advantage. When we get to the large intestine, there are some microbes in there that make you neurotransmitters. The microbes in the small intestine break down things like hormones like estrogen. We want to keep these microbes happy along the whole digestive tract. So make sure that you are getting a diverse set of different resistant starches. And I personally, if you're the person asking this question, said that they like resistant wheat starch because it is helpful to the large intestine. And I would say, yeah, anything that's going to help the microbes down all the way that far down in the digestive system is a win for me. I just would want to make sure that for me, I don't do wheat, so I would want it to be gluten-free. Okay, there's a very detailed answer to that one.
Okay, you know how when you're trying to get in and out of fat burner, sugar burner, and sometimes you struggle? It might be that you have a metabolic blocker that's at play here. Want to know what those blockers are? Click on the link above and I'll take you straight to a giveaway and you can have my list of metabolic blockers.
Okay, number 2. There is a confusion about fasted snacks. Oh, this is so good. I really wanted to highlight fasted snacks for you all. In Eat Like a Girl, I have a whole chapter on fasted snacks. I have recipes on fasted snacks. I have a whole discussion in there. So if that's a new concept, grab that book, Eat Like a Girl, and you will see that there's a lot in there on fasted snacks. This person's confused because using things like stevia in your fasted snack. Can't stevia trigger an insulin response? Because it's sweet. Okay, this is new information. I have changed my tune on this based off of science that I have found. And I am going to attach this article here for you. And the title of the research review is The Effects of Stevia on the Glycemic and Lipid Profile of Type 2 Diabetic Patients. And this was done out of the Phytomedical Journal in 2020. So it was a fairly recent article. And what it says, I'm going to read it, word by word here, so we can all be on the same page. Let me find it. So what this review says is that stevia does not spike glucose or insulin. Now, so I want us to rethink this, because when somebody says, I've heard that even the taste of sweet can trigger an insulin response, I don't have any literature to say the taste of sweet can trigger it. But what I do have is a science article here that is showing that stevia itself does not raise your glucose or your insulin. Now, is there ever a scenario where it might do that? And the answer is yes. I've done a lot of videos. I just did a long video on stevia. There are situations where some of you have been on antibiotics for multiple times. Some of you have been on the birth control pill for decades. Some of you have been eating the Western standard diet for decades. Some of you are under chronic stress. I point all of these things out because these are things that destroy your microbiome. And when your microbiome is destroyed, something like stevia can even spike your blood sugar and pull you out of a fasted state. But if you keep repairing your microbiome, then stevia could act as a really good fasted snack. Stevia should not increase glucose and insulin. And so there's a lot of things, if you have that lens, that you can start bringing in as these fasted snacks. Okay? Hopefully we got clear on that one. Okay, next question is, what is a normal blood sugar reading? Should it get higher or lower while you fast? And is there a different normal for people who follow a fasting lifestyle? Okay, this is awesome. I haven't been asked this question in a really long time. So let me see if I can just make this simple. When you wake up in the morning, technically, your blood sugar should be at its lowest. And I'm going to give these in American measurements. We will do the translation for the metric system. In the back of Eat Like a Girl, by the way, there's a whole measurement translation. We made sure to put that in there. A normal reading should be between 70 and 90 megaliters per deciliter, milligrams per deciliter. So between 70 and 90, you should wake up in. That should be your reading. Now, as you go along your fasted state, that glucose should go lower. Okay, well, what if it doesn't go lower? What if you're fasting and your glucose is going higher? That often means that your body is releasing stored sugar. I'll tell you an interesting story that I had when I first started doing fasting and putting CGMs on. I noticed in like my 2 and 3 day water fasts that on the second day I would get these big spikes of glucose, and I believe it was my body releasing glucose into my bloodstream. But in general, you should start off between 70 and 90. And as you fast, your glucose, your blood sugar should go down and ketones should go up. So a lot of you, if you're measuring ketones, will wake up in the morning and you will find that you have like a glucose level of 90 and a ketone that's 0, that you don't have any ketones. Normal, healthy metabolic system, you should see that glucose starts to go down in the fasted state and ketones start to go up. When I was coaching patients on a regular basis, that was the first thing we looked at. For the first 2 weeks, I would teach them, let's have an eating window and a fasting window. And then what I want you to do is take a measurement when you first wake up and a measurement before you break your fast. And when we look at your glucose, your blood sugar from that level, you should have, your blood sugar should go down and your ketones should go up. Now, for normal people, this was the question, is there a different for normal people who follow a fasting lifestyle? I like that normal is put in quotes because I don't really know exactly what a normal person is, but I'm just going to assume, let's say that a fasting lifestyle. What is it for somebody who's following a fasting lifestyle? It's exactly what I just said. People who have a fasting lifestyle typically wake up in the morning with a glucose between 70 and 90. And as the day goes on, the glucose dips and the ketones go up. And as the ketones go up, their hunger goes down and their mental clarity improves. And this is why people who build fasting lifestyles start to thrive in longer fasts, because they can make that metabolic switch over much faster and much smoother. So for normal people, I really want to point out that it's how effortlessly can you get into that fasted state? And are you suffering in the fasted state? You should be able to go long periods of time in that fasted state. And you should kick into ketosis very quickly. So all of a sudden the hunger goes away. I'll give you an example. Today I went to go get a bunch of blood work drawn. And my blood work was being drawn at noon and I had to stay in a fasted state. I woke up at 5 in the morning. I had my cup of coffee with a little bit of MCT oil, some creatine and collagen powder. I've been talking about that. And a little bit of, just a tiny bit of raw cream. And at about 10 o'clock, I started to get hungry. It was 5 hours after the moment I woke up and I couldn't eat because I was going to get blood work. And I thought, okay, well, let me just see if my body settles into this fasted state a little bit more and makes me some ketones and kills that hunger. And sure enough, within about an hour, and even a little bit more, like by the time I was driving to the appointment, my hunger was gone. By the time I came back, which was now about 4 hours after my 10 o'clock hunger, and I was ready to break my fast, I wasn't even hungry. That's what happens when you start to build these fasting lifestyles, is hunger will come in, but then your body switches over and starts making ketones. And before you know it, it's shutting off that hunger hormone. Okay. A lot of nuance there for you all. But again, I love these detailed questions. Those of you who have been asking them, thank you so much. And it's really important that we have some deeper conversations like this and videos like this, because you're doing so great with your fasting lifestyle. I see it in the comments. I see it on my socials. So many of you have stopped me when you see me in public and you tell me how much weight you've lost. It's incredible. And there's so much to this fasting lifestyle. I recently had a friend that started fasting, and one of her first comments to me was, "Oh, wait, there's so much more to fasting than just not eating." And the answer is yeah, especially when you're using it in the way that I'm teaching to improve your metabolic system, your nervous system, your hormonal system, your microbial system. That is how I'm teaching a fasting lifestyle. So when we want to use it as a healing tool like that, yeah, there's deeper conversations, and hopefully these videos are addressing that. So let me know. Let me know if it's helping. I love the feedback. Those of you that are joining my Reset Academy, I'm excited to see you over there. And as always, don't give up on yourself. You deserve to live in a healthy body. And please know that I'm cheering you on. So hope that helps.
I know you're struggling to lose weight. It may be your fasting length. So in this video, I'm going to show you the perfect fasting length to unstick weight loss. In fact, it's such an incredible tool for weight loss. I think you should start with fasting before you change your food to be able to get into that door in for losing weight.